and this is Silicon Grapevine. And today my guest is Jodi Shelton, who is founder and CEO of the GSA. Hello, Jodi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So on this show, if you've seen before, basically we talk a little bit about what you do, but also then go into a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Okay.
So
let's do it.
First of all, tell me, what's your role? You're founder and CEO of GSA. What's that?
So I run the GSA, which is a Global Semiconductor Alliance. We have a tagline of where leaders meet, and that is because it really is a platform for all global leaders around the world to come together to address the many challenges, but also opportunities that we have in our industry.
And it's a membership organization. It's global, and you have various events around the world.
That's right. So we have events, we have thought leadership programs, we have a women's leadership initiative, we have interest groups, we do studies and white papers and lots of collaborative products that we do with companies like McKinsey or Accenture or KPMG. We just did a study with them.
All right. And so how did you get into this? I mean, I don't think you necessarily have a semiconductor background, but you've managed to bring together the whole industry.
A little serendipity, I think, for sure. So I was with a fabless semiconductor company in the beginning of my career, and the company was quite religious almost about the belief in fabless.
Okay.
So I went through the IPO process with this company, and I remember walking in meetings, and every meeting the analysts would say, when are you going to have your own manufacturing? So not if or anything else, but when. It was very important to them because that was the belief in the industry that maybe fabless was a way to get started, but it certainly wasn't any sort of long-term business model. And I think that even we believed that there was a limit, whether that limit was 200 million or 300 million, we would have never guessed.
And then ARM came along.
Yeah. Well, we would have never guessed in a million years that, companies as big as NVIDIA and Qualcomm and AMD would not only remain fabless, but be committed to that model, the most efficient and profitable model and way to run a business. So when I left that company, I said, okay, I'd like to get together some of these fabless CEOs, many of them which I had met at financial conferences, and just see what we could jointly do to kind of promote this industry a little bit. And at the same time, I intercepted a letter from a gentleman by the name of Bill O'Meara, who was the CEO of a company, CQ. It was a very hot and exciting company at that time. And he was having a dinner for CEOs. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my idea. I have to be part of this. Yeah. So I tried to get a hold of Bill O'Meara, wouldn't take my calls, wouldn't have a meeting. And so I literally showed up at his office and told his assistant that I would just hang out in the lobby. And when it was time for him to leave at the end of the day, that I would catch and get him for 5 minutes. So at the end of the day, I'm sure she maybe felt sorry for me. Came and got me and said, come on up, yeah. Bill will see you now. And so I was like, listen, Bill, I've got this idea. Maybe it can be more than a dinner. Maybe we can form an organization. And, he kept looking at me and saying, who are you? And what are you doing here?
That's usual answer, isn't it? Yeah. If somebody comes in.
Yes. And I was 20-something years old.
Yeah.
So I always say that the greatest part of my story is that it shouldn't have happened. Okay, I mean, I had no business running an association made up of CEOs. Yeah. Okay, just no business at all. But I was young enough to be naive and to think I knew more than I did.
So you mentioned this company that you worked in. It was an IPO. Which was the company?
Cyrex.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yes.
So how did you fall into that? Yeah, was that something through you're just finding an internship, or was that?
It was just my job. I had gone to graduate school. I actually thought that I would be a professor of political philosophy. Wow. That was really what I thought I wanted to do, and then completed my master's. And this was my first job really out of college, and of course I worked all the way through college. But this was my first official job, and it was a super exciting company. They needed people. And I actually did statistical analysis on wafer yields because I had just done statistical analysis and political philosophy or political science at that point in time. And so,
how many inch wafers were they at the time?
They were 6 inch, going to 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really exciting. And anyway, it was a great company. And so there were just tons of opportunities. So I started out in manufacturing, learned the lingo, and it was for sure like studying a foreign language.
So how long did you do that?
I did that for a fairly short period of time, maybe 6-9 months. And then I moved to sales and marketing. And then when the company decided to do an IPO, the CFO invited me to be on the IPO team.
Wow, that's a good way to get initiated.
That's right.
It was industry.
In just 2.5 or 3 years, again, there for a very short period of time, I learned as much as one would normally in a 10-year time frame.
You know what they say in startups or in that kind of environment, and I myself have gone through that, but when you learn in such an accelerated time, like 1 year, 2 years, you pretty much know everything you need to know.
Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot, and I remember that I'm working with financial analysts, so they're teaching me a lot, and I'm, answering their questions all the time and doing road shows with them. So I got to know the Wall Street very well, and it was actually Mark Edelstone, who's at that point in time an analyst, now more on the banking side, but he really was my partner in the beginning. So one of the first things that FSA did was to produce a wafer demand survey. We wanted to really demonstrate what the size and potential of this burgeoning industry was going to be. At that point in time, there was nothing like that. And, people used that data to grow their fabs and to start them. So I heard from Richard Ching that WSMC started using some of that information. So it was quite important.
Exactly. And so at that time, was it easy to get members? I mean, how many members did you have on launch?
So no, nothing has ever been easy. So when we started, I had the dinner with Bill O'Meara and the group of maybe 10 CEOs in February of 1994. And we had maybe 5 dinners after that, kind of growing the number each time. And at the end of the day, no one could really agree on what it was that we wanted to do. So I said, you know what? I'm going to form an organization. I'm going to write the bylaws. If you want to join. And by September of 1994, when we launched FSA, we started with 50 members.
That's not bad.
Not bad.
And was NVIDIA one of them?
NVIDIA was one of them. You know what? I take that back. I think NVIDIA maybe joined a year later.
Okay. So who was the first one? Was it Bill?
I think probably CQ,
yeah.
Level 1,
yeah.
Cyrex. Many of these companies, not many, almost all of them are gone now.
Yeah.
They were, through M&A. So it really has, the industry has changed so much, which is, one of the best parts of my job is that, I've been doing it for 30 years, but no year is even remotely similar to the year before.
So that's quite fascinating because you come out of college, you do your master's, or whatever, and you do a successful IPO, and then straight into launching an organization, association. That sort of rapid move, did that make you think, okay, my career is totally different now? And did you ever think you'd be still there 30 years later?
No, of course not. No.
Yeah.
I mean, again, although I was very optimistic about fabless, again, not even I can dream as big as we are today.
Right.
And that it would still be a coherent model. And it is a coherent model because, obviously not because of me. I mean, I think that what we did was important in terms of legitimizing and evangelizing on behalf of the industry. But it's companies like TSMC that, really provides the foundation for everything that this industry can do. Of course, now there's more than TSMC, but in the beginning there was TSMC, there was UMC, and now today there's also Samsung and Intel and Global Foundries and many other foundry partners. But at that point in time, TSMC was very critical to this whole fabless foundry model. Many of the companies that we worked with in 1994 used IDMs to produce their product. Yeah. So the first time that I met ST Micro, it was as a foundry.
Of course.
Right? Yeah. So it's great to see how the relationship has evolved over the years of, maybe a few people in ST knowing who we were and thinking, oh, well, they represent our customers, and so we better be part of it. all the way now to Jean-Marc is on our board of directors and part of the thought leadership at GSA.
Was that Pascal at that time?
It was.
So,
it was.
One of the things that must be fascinating for people who are not you is like they must be saying, oh, she gets to see all these big leaders. What does it feel like? Is there anybody that's really stuck in your mind saying, well, I learned a lot from so-and-so, or this was really visionary?
I mean, of course, I've learned a lot from every single person that I've come in contact with. I always say, I've worked with the most brilliant people in the world.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty fortunate job. But I mean, certainly some stick out. I mean, I knew Morris Chang from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I am still friends with him today.
Yeah.
We have a very close relationship, and he is the master at this, and one of them in not only in history books, but even today, if you ask people, I mean, Morris Chang is one of the most important people to have ever been in this industry. So I think that I learned a lot from him. And he didn't mind teaching me. He didn't mind telling me when I was wrong.
Yeah.
Didn't mind telling me I needed to do something different on this or that.
Yeah.
He was always very open. In the early days, it was Bill O'Meara at CQ and Dr. Robert Pepper, who was the CEO of Level 1 that eventually sold to Intel.
Yep.
Very close to him. I think that certainly Jensen Huang has been an important part of my career.
Yeah.
I mean, he supported us from the beginning. I can remember interviewing him for what was at that point in time our magazine, and he just had some of the greatest quotes. It still does today. But he told me at that point in time, I was like, Jensen, aren't you worried about like people who are like leaving companies and joining other companies, and there doesn't seem to be any like loyalty to any particular company? It's there's so many exciting startups that people jump around a lot. And he's like, Jodi, we are neither a church nor a prison. You do not have to come and you do not have to stay. Again, Jensen was 27 or 28 years old at that point in time. Yeah. We were peers. We were exactly the same age. And so it was, it's pretty fun.
I don't remember. Was he wearing that black jacket then?
He was not. That came a little later, but it's certainly a trademark.
Yeah.
And a good one.
Yeah.
I think it matches him well. And then, Art Togias has also been very important. Again, I have learned so much from him, that he probably doesn't even know. I mean, so much in terms of real leadership, because he is a real leader.
Well, he'll be watching this.
Yeah, okay, Art. And so I think the world of him. And Lisa Su has been very important to my career.
Right.
And she served as our chair in 2018 to 2020. Or to 2020, and was terrific to work with, and is just such a great human being. And she is everything that you see when you watch her on TV. I mean, she is so committed to excellence and technology, and she loves this. Like every day of her job, she loves.
I mean, she's got a fascinating story as well. But one of the things I think you said in a separate interview is maybe there's not so much recognition sometimes for the women in our industry, and I think she's recognized in our industry, but not outside.
Right. I guess. I mean, she has been on the cover of Forbes, and, when I generally talk about her to my friends who are not in semiconductors, a lot of people know who she is, but certainly not enough. I mean, at one point in time, she was the highest paid CEO in the world, and it wasn't just in semis, and it wasn't just a woman. It was as a leader, and as well she should be. I mean, she is fantastic. So I think the more the world gets to know her, the better the world will be for it.
Now, so what you started with, when you started, I think, what inspired you to do what you were doing then? And then we know about the inspiration through the organization, but the beginning of your career, what inspired you to go and study what you did? Is it your family or whatever?
I love reading. I love studying history and the philosophy of history. So, I could sit and read Aristotle all day and Nietzsche, and I really love philosophy. And so I thought, well, I'll do this all day. I'll be a professor and get to read all day. And I don't know what clicked, but something did. I grew up very humble beginnings, and so the opportunity maybe to make money someday was of interest to me. I don't know when I got rid of that desire, because running an association is not a hugely lucrative job for sure. But you know what? Again, I have the greatest job. I have so much fun. It's constant. There's just so much change, and the people that you get to be around.
You had exposure to so many great startups. You could have been snapped up by one of them. What made you stay? You could have been, I don't know, something at NVIDIA or whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, and at one point in time, I talked to Jensen about being on their board, and same with TSMC. But, I don't know. It shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? But I've had a wonderful career, and I don't have any regrets. And although, I don't get to work directly for Morris or directly for Jensen, I'm in, sort of constant contact with them, and they get to watch what I do, and I get to learn from them. So it's great. I have no regrets.
You sound like a lady who's all work and no play. What do you like to do outside of work?
That's really actually true. I do work a lot, but again, it's fun work. But no, I have a lot of other interests. Again, I'm a big reader. I love reading history, and I actually am working on my first novel. Wow. So during the pandemic, I actually wrote a screenplay and submitted it. I had an agent, so submitted it to a few different outlets. No one picked it up. But it did win. I mean, I won something like 30 awards for it. Wow. Never got picked up.
For the screenplay?
For the screenplay.
Okay, interesting.
And so I just decided, well, one of the problems with the screenplay is that you don't get to see the whole picture, because with the screenplay for what I was writing for was going to be a series. And so you only write the pilot. And so anybody that read it was only reading the pilot. So I thought, let me tell the whole story. And so the novel's the way to tell the whole story. So my goal for the year is to finish my novel. I've been working on it for 3 years. Really longer than that if you, all of the research that I did, it's historical fiction. And so there's a lot of research to be done. So that's super fun.
And can we know what it's about, or roughly?
So it's about a spy, a female spy who, and really starting from, it follows her career from the beginning, or really towards the end of the Cold War. So she goes to the Soviet Union, and then it follows her to Pakistan, and then to Sudan. So it's again, historical fiction, has to do also with 9/11. So we'll see.
Any tech? Any high-tech surveillance?
Not yet, but that will be my next novel.
Female Jason Bourne.
That's right.
Okay, so we talked about what sort of inspires you. I think we haven't really talked about you've talked about more people you've learned from. But is there anybody that you think will be like your mentor? There's somebody who's really been a really strong sort of constant in terms of mentoring you.
Well, I mean, my husband was a big mentor to me. So Jerry Rogers, and he was in the semiconductor industry and passed away a few years ago. But he was my mentor. I mean, anything, I could ask him any stupid question I wanted, right? So, and I had a lot. Yeah. But he was always, recommending different career paths to take and different ways to do things, different ways to look at things. And so he was a mentor to me. And then, again, I think that Morris Chang has been a mentor to me, Jensen Huang, Lisa Su. I would consider all of them have played a big part in my career.
So, I mean, like you say, you're embedded in the industry. What would be, we've heard about the novels, but what would be next? I mean, you've been 30 years now. Is there somebody coming up there? Is there a succession plan, or are you going to be there until the day you die?
I don't know. No promises either way. I guess I'll do it till I'm not having fun anymore. Yeah. I mean, it is a lot of hard work, and I don't exactly have a succession plan. And, I think the industry needs GSA. I mean, I'm not going to be, so bold to say that they need me, but I think that they need GSA. And so as long as I'm, doing that and serving a purpose for the industry and accelerating its path, and again, making it more collaborative, or making sure that we don't forget about collaboration. Because again, it's easy, even the language that people use now, and the politicians use about this industry is very worrisome to me. So I think that we need the GSA.
All right. Okay, good. One question I always ask my guests is, what would you tell a young Jodi, knowing what you know now, in terms of advice?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Just, I guess, always try to enjoy it. Really, like, even the hard stuff, to just try to appreciate the fact that you have all these opportunities. I mean, I certainly, when I started this industry in 1994, I mean, I didn't know who was important and who wasn't important. And, I just bulldozed my way in. And I think that kind of confidence has served me well throughout my career. So I think that, I would tell maybe another young person to just have confidence in yourself, even if you don't, like, fake it.
That's going to be my headline. Are you sure you want
Just fake it.
Yeah. But, well, Jodi, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.